Welcome, Panther Nation football fans, to another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. I am, of course, Mr. CeeLo, talking all things Carolina Panthers, from the postseason to the Super Bowl to the offseason, to the draft, to OTAs, to the preseason, to kickoff 2023. Let the growlin' begin. Welcome back, Panther Nation. Glad to be back with you on this opening day kickoff 2023. Well, I'm sorry. I know it's not a good note on, that we're dealing with right now, but hey, let's look on the bright side. We lost to a pretty good defensive unit in the Atlanta Falcons, 24-10. It wasn't all a disaster. We were actually ahead in this game. So if we really wanted to look at some things that we could really hang our hat on, Jesse Bates was the MVP. I think Cincinnati is going to look back on letting this gentleman walk, and they're going to think, why did we let this guy walk? If any of you guys watch my other show, Gridiron Gab Pro Style, I was totally wondering why Cincinnati let this guy walk. Jesse Bates was phenomenal. He forced 2 interceptions, which, you can look back and say, why did Bryce throw him? But then again, he did what he was supposed to. He was looking away, and then he put it down there. Bates jumped the route. I mean, that's really all you can say is Jesse Bates jumped that route, and wasn't nothing else you could do. Well, let's take a look here, because I was not upset at the defense. I was really not upset with the offense either, and I know a lot of you guys are going to say, that doesn't make sense. Well, when you think about 3 turnovers, I want you to think hard, guys. When you think about 3 turnovers, and there were a couple of times where our guys didn't actually tackle the ball well. I'm sorry, guys. I'm clicking through a lot of notifications that I'm getting, and so please bear with me a little bit. But looking at the exact box score, the team stats. I'll look at that first, give you guys a rundown. I was actually more satisfied today than I was in any of the preseason games. Other than the finale against the Lions, I was impressed with the way when Bryce threw his first touchdown. And then he also threw one today, so that's an uphill battle. But the other thing I saw that I was overly impressed with, for an Atlanta Falcon team that was supposed to be so good up front, I didn't see it. Guys dominated up front, and what I thought was great. Thomas Brown and Frank Wright had a great plan today. Given that we didn't have DJ Shark, I will say this. Frank, you guys are going to have to be able to roll Bryce out. Roll him out so he can get some throws down the field. Because everything's short. Now, I admit that Terrace Marshall needs to be, they need to figure out why he slowed down on that one, because it's like the announcer said, if Terrace Marshall doesn't slow down, he probably gets under that and goes in for 6. We're going to have to be able to get plays down the field. We have to. This is not up for debate. If we can get the football up the field deep, we'll be able to run the football. And looking at this, we had more passing first downs than the Falcons did. And I'm going to be honest with you, I saw a clear difference between Desmond Ridder and Bryce Young. Bryce Young had command of his offense, and Frank Reich was not afraid for him to throw the football. Atlanta does not want Desmond Ridder to throw the football. They don't. And they have much better weapons physically than we do. And rushing first downs, you look at the first downs, we beat them soundly, 20-13. First downs from penalties, we got 2. We were 5 of 14 on third downs, whereas the Falcons were 2 of 10. Not bad. We were 0 for 2 on fourth downs. One of them was deep in Falcons territory, and I think a lot of people will be like, well, you got to go for the points. Well, I think ultimately, like I said earlier, I didn't think the Falcons were going to win this game. I felt like this was going to be one of those games where we're trying to get our feet wet with Bryce Young and its different guys that we have. And this was a tale of 2 teams that were not very good passing teams. If you take away that 35-yard pass play from Ridder to Kyle Pitts, you really don't see anything extraordinary about their offense. Our defense played exceptionally well. I mean, and I've said this before. I thought Atlanta was going to be one of those teams that are going to try to beat you defensively, force you to do what they did today, make turnovers, and hold on to the ball. But what was ironic today to me is that the Panthers controlled the clock by almost 10 minutes. We controlled the clock by almost 10 minutes. And you look at the way we played this game, it was just really, you don't want to play super conservative, but you want to take your shots. And I think ultimately there needs to be different types of plays called for type of players that you're playing against, because Jesse Bates, we already know, regardless of what Cincinnati was not willing to do, they paid him the money for the reason. They know what Jesse Bates can do. He had a phenomenal game. As we said, 2 interceptions and a forced fumble on Miles Sanders. But the Panthers were able to get after Desmond Ridder very well. You can see why Brian Burns feels the way he feels. And it was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive watching him work. You had Burns had a sack and a half, and Derek Brown had a sack, which arguably could have been Burns. If you watched the game, there was a play where he got it away from his man, got Ridder by the ankles, but he slipped away, and Burns crashed in and finished him off. So Burns got a whole sack Brown got the sack, but it was initially Burns that, caused it. Frankie Louvu had a sack. And then on top of that, Burns had 2 tackles for losses. And the other thing is, let's look at this. He's got 9 total tackles in this game. Burns had 7. Louvu, 7. Chin, 7. Shaq Thompson, 5. And Shy Tuttle had a half sack. Like I said, I was not at all displeased by what we saw today. The 24-7 could easily have been flipped. Like something like 17-3. Had we not had those turnovers. And for all you to hate on my man Chuba Hubbard, this guy had 9 carries for 60 yards. So I'm tired of y'all hating on this man. There's a lot of y'all that hate on Chuba Hubbard and say, we need to get rid of him. Why? I would argue he should be the starter. Look at Sanders, 18 carries, 72 yards. It was apparent Chuba Hubbard was the better back. He was the hot hand. So get your facts in order before you start talking about a player. That being Chuba Hubbard. Hayden Hurst catches his first touchdown as a Carolina Panther, and Bryce Young's official first touchdown. I think ultimately what's got to happen is he did a great job, that being Bryce Young. I think what's got to happen is they've got to, they're going to have to take more shots. That's just all there is to it. Marshall's going to have to actually finish his blame routes. Yeah, I said it, Marshall. You're going to have to finish your routes. And Chenault they used very well. He only had 4 touches, though, and that's what's worrying me, is he plays so physical. Now, hopefully he didn't get another concussion, because he was very quiet in the second half. And not good. Not good at all. But before I get out of here, I want you guys to go to the Facebook page and definitely go and check this out. But as I said, I was very happy with the way certain levels on defense. We got to clean up a couple of tackles in the backfield. There were a couple of guys who missed tackles. Von Bell and you guys, Xavier Woods, you guys let Kyle Pitts get back there, which he's going to get there eventually. But we also lost J.C. Horn. That's another thing that people I know are going to sit here and they're going to say, oh, here we go again, he's hurt. No. They're thinking it's a hamstring injury. We're hoping that's what that is. You can't say anything about a hamstring injury. It happens. It happens. Now, will that mean he will be willing to, if he's out for an extended period of time with his 5th-year option coming up, will he be willing to take less money for a shorter contract? Who knows? Maybe he will. Maybe he'll bet on himself. But I'm a firm believer that we need this guy. That shot to Kyle Pitts does not happen if J.C. Horn's out there. We need this guy. But as we close out, guys, I'm going to put a poll up to see which guys were, see if you guys were happy with the way the offense played today, and to see if you guys were happy with the way the defense played. And continue to put out that content or the comments, guys. As we narrow down the 1 o'clock window, I have to get ready to go and do a show for I have to do a show for Gridiron Gab Pro Style. And as I said, I'm not as disappointed as some people were. I think for the most part that considering the preseason that we had, I was actually impressed with the way we came out and played. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it wasn't that bad, guys. It really wasn't. We have something we can work towards, and I'm exceptionally pleased at the moment. And hopefully they can go back and go back to the drawing board and get better. And as you guys know, we will be having a home opener against the Saints, whom, if I'm looking at the information correctly, was able to squeak out a 1-point win against the Titans. So we'll have to go to the drawing board and see what we can do differently there, as this was a relatively low-scoring game. Only 31 points were scored in that game, as 34 was scored in ours. But we'll come up and we'll talk about this after, probably in the middle of the week. But Panthers fall 24-10 to the Atlanta Falcons today in the ATL. Bryce Young not overwhelmingly impressive in this game. Really nobody was. Only the defensive side of the ball. I will say Chuba Hubbard was pretty good today. He had 9 carries for 60 yards. And of course Hayden Hurst had 5 catches for 41-1. Panthers were able to run the football for 154 yards, so I was impressed with that. The Panthers held Bijan in check on the running side of the ball, but as far as the receiving side, he hurt us. He had 6 catches, 27 yards, and that nifty move to get into the end zone earlier in the game. But not really much on that side of the ball. As I reported, Jesse Bates was just all over the place. He had 10 total tackles, 2 interceptions, as well as a forced fumble. And Troy Anderson for the Falcons had a half sack, 10 tackles, and it was just a turnover type game, and it was a Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates put his stamp on this game. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Go to the Facebook page and let us know what you think. And as I said, kudos to Derek Brown and of course Brian Burns coming out playing hard. Y'all need to sign him. I'm gonna say that again. Fitterer, get on it. Jeremy Chin 7 tackles, Shaq 5. And hopefully we can get a good report on J.C. Horn. Get well, buddy. We'll be praying for you. But until the next time, keep prowling the airwaves and keep growling out. Keep pounding.